How's it going, everyone? This is Samir from PSR, and welcome to another video on my Toyota Camry TRD. In the last video, I discussed the 10 things I disliked about this car, though a majority of those things on that list were mild annoyances as opposed to true dislikes. And that should be evidence as to how much I actually love this car. And as I mentioned in the last video, it's sort of been difficult for me to come up with a solid list of 10 things I like about this car. For the dislikes video, it was just a matter of finding 10 things. Here, it was a matter of narrowing down the 100 or so things I actually do like about it to just 10 things. So what I decided to do pretty much was just take the top 10 things I liked about it and compiled certain things into basically one category. And you'll see what I mean as we dive into the list. I figured I'd start off with what is probably the most obvious thing to like about this car if you were one to purchase it, and that is just the general exterior styling, the aesthetic. I mean, this is probably the broadest category on this list. It covers so much. I'm talking, you know, the color combo, the white with the black and the red accents, the aero parts including the wing, which of course is controversial, the wheels. And this is on top of a vehicle which is already very attractive. The 8th generation Camry, it's handsome, it has, you know, a touch of luxury, a touch of sportiness. It's just one of the better looking sedans out there, and in my opinion, the best looking Camry, bar none, and I don't think that's a terribly uncommon opinion. Moving on to number 2 in this list, the second thing I really like about this car has got to be its engine. This is definitely at the top of the list. This list isn't generally in any particular order, it's just in the order I came up with them in, but this is definitely near the top if there was a ranking to it. As far as I'm aware, the Camry is the final vehicle in this segment, in the mid-size family sedan segment, which has retained a V6 option, which is sort of sad to me. I get it, you know, that's the way the world is going. Turbo 4 cylinders, you know, they can offer better fuel economy, better torque, especially when you consider, you know, the power to size of the engine ratio, lighter weight because they don't have to lug around a larger engine like this 3.5 liter. And like I said, you know, I get all of that, but I still like the immediate response of a V6. I like the sound of a V6. I'm just, I suppose, not quite ready yet to go to turbos, especially when it comes to reliability. And that's actually the perfect segue into my third like about this car, and that is, of course, the reliability, or as I've said previously, the presumed reliability, because of course with a brand new car, you don't really know whether it's reliable until it hits, you know, 150,000, 200,000 miles, however much you require for a car to be reliable in your eyes. But I mean, this is a Toyota we're talking about. Toyota generally, and the Camry specifically, these nameplates are just known for more than anything else, reliability and dependability. And the V6 powertrain actually assists in reliability in this case. I think it enhances it. If this was a turbo 4-cylinder, we'd have the issue of, you know, not only enhanced costs when it comes to, you know, replacing turbos and supporting components, but it would also, you know, come from, you know, more wear and tear, I guess. You know, the way I drive my cars, I drive them for fun. You know, I wouldn't go particularly easy on a turbo car. If anything, the fact that it had a turbo would cause me to drive it even harder, and that of course would lead to, you know, excessive wear and needing to replace parts sooner, and also lead to reliability issues. So yeah, reliability overall, but reliability especially when it comes to normal Toyota reliability mixed with a naturally aspirated motor. I think this is just the best combination you can get. On to the fourth thing I like about this car. Oh, that is its safety. No doubt about it. This is one of the biggest reasons I think anyone would even choose to buy a Camry. It's one of the safest sedans on the road. It has the highest possible safety rating. There's just no doubt that this belongs on the top 10 things to like about a Camry. I'd say in years past, safety hasn't been as important to me. It's always been something I've considered in a car, but it was never, you know, one of the, you know, critical components for a car. I figured, you know, as long as it's adequately safe, I'm cool with that. But no, this time when buying my new daily driver, I thought, no, I need one of the safest cars you can buy, for a couple of reasons. One, I plan on keeping this car once I start raising a family, and you know, I want them to be safe. But two, I also don't want to have to change cars because I have a family. I mean, that's the classic, you know, car enthusiast story. You know, it's like, oh, I had this fun car, but it wasn't that practical or safe, so I had to get rid of it once I started raising a family. That's exactly the situation I wanted to avoid, and I think this is the perfect car to help me do that. The fifth thing I like about this car, I can barely even say it with a straight face, but honestly, it's the red seatbelts. I alluded to this previously, but one of the reasons I wanted this car was the red seatbelts. This was a tick in its favor. It weighed in its favor. when compared to, say, the Accord or something. It wasn't the deciding factor, but it was definitely an actual factor. It wasn't like, oh, if it doesn't have colored seatbelts, I'm not buying it. But I don't know, I guess it comes kind of from a childish place. I've always wanted a vehicle that had colored seatbelts, whether they were red or yellow or whatever, you know, like the Porsches have always had and whatnot. I definitely didn't think that car that I eventually got would be a Camry with colored seatbelts, but here we are. That's what you get in 2021. Since I'm already inside the car, this is a convenient time to go over the sixth thing I like about it, and that is its interior simplicity. This is something I've always praised Toyota for. I've always loved it about their cars, is that everything is just functional. It's very simple and functional. I mean, you just look, you have a shifter. Look, you just use it like a regular shifter. You have a relatively small screen. You know, I don't know what it is. It's like 7 inches or so, and that's very small compared to what you can get these days. You have, you know, very simple, like, you know, hugely labeled buttons which tell you exactly what to do. You have your phone controls, you have your audio controls, your map, everything's here. You have your steering wheel, which has its controls, of course, like most modern cars, but it's just your cruise control, your audio, and your phone stuff, nothing else. Climate controls, really simple, really easy to understand. I mean, I just can't sing the praises of this enough. I know the simplicity might not be everyone's bag. You know, people really like the modern designs. People really like for things to be kind of hidden, and for controls to be hidden and unique. You know, I've had plenty of friends who like to mess around with you, who are like, oh, try to turn on your heated seats in my Dodge Ram. You'll never figure it out, and you have to dig through the screen, menus on the screen to find it. Here, to be fair, I don't have heated seats in this car, but that was just a for instance. But yeah, so I get that that's not for everyone, but I like the interior simplicity. Although it'd probably be more appropriate to be inside the car for number 7 on this list, I felt like stepping out. So here we are, on to the 7th thing I like about it. And that is the fact that it has relatively few electronics compared to what you can get in other modern cars. As I mentioned before, this car doesn't have heated seats, nor does it have ventilated seats. It doesn't have, a panoramic roof. It doesn't have a heated steering wheel. It doesn't have a lot of the amenities that people these days seem to think are necessary, and for me that's a plus. I know this might not sound like a plus, but it really is, and that's because there's just fewer things to go wrong the fewer electronics and features you have. I know this is kind of an old school way of thinking, and I wouldn't really consider myself old, but yeah, I mean that's my mindset on this sort of thing. I mean, when you think about it, it's like, most of the time when I would need a heated steering wheel would be right in the morning, right? Well, I keep my car garaged, so that wouldn't even be terribly useful. It might be minimally useful for a minute or two, and honestly, if I had the choice of getting it, I probably would. But overall, when I think about it, wanting a car for a while, the longevity of owning it, it's like I want fewer things on there, so fewer things can go wrong, so it's cheap to maintain, cheap to fix whatever does get broken, if something gets broken, and honestly, just more electronics, more wires. That also adds weight, aside from the reliability side of things, you also have to consider weight. And when you're talking about a car which is fun to use and you like to kind of throw around a little bit, additional weight and additional features, the additional features might be nice, but that additional weight could kind of drag down the fun factor. And I don't know, I think it's a good compromise. And really, all that stuff I listed before, I don't think it's anywhere near as necessary as people make it out to be these days. The 8th thing I like about this car kind of speaks for itself. And that's because it makes noise. I know, terrible joke, but it's the exhaust note. Oh, I love it in this car. Honestly, I thought perhaps it would be a bit louder when I initially purchased the car, and at times it actually surprised me with how loud it gets, but really it's quite mild, it's quite reserved, which is really nice because you can start the car in the morning and it doesn't sound much different than a standard V6 Camry. And then you can also drive along the road without attracting attention to yourself. When you really get on it, it makes a little bit more noise, but really, even then, even at its loudest, it's quite reserved, which is perfect, in my opinion, for a daily driver. The ninth thing I like about this car is something which I very much appreciated about it from the moment I bought it, and was one of the reasons why I wanted it over other certain vehicles. And that's the fact that it's modified from the factory. This might not seem like a big deal, but when you think about it, every single modification on this car, quote unquote modification, because it is all OEM, you know, the larger you know, the larger front brakes, the aero, the suspension components, all of that. This is stuff, the exhaust. This is all stuff I probably would have added or upgraded on my own were I to build a standard Camry. But then none of that stuff would have been covered under warranty, and then we would have had the issue of potentially voiding my manufacturer's warranty. Everything I listed, though, is already a part of the car. If anything goes wrong with any of it, it's all covered under warranty, and that is a huge deal. As I'm sure is the case with many car enthusiasts, I get the itch to modify all my cars, whether it's, you know, my project car or my daily driver or even my wife's car. I just have that itch. I can't stand a vehicle staying stock in most cases. In the case of this Camry, I don't feel that way, because to me, it pretty much looks modified. I'm like, this has, the wheels, the aero, the brakes, the suspension, the exhaust. This is pretty much exactly how I'd modify a car tastefully if I were to do it on my own. So that's good. That's part of it. It saves me money in that way, and it sort of saves me grief as well, because, I mean, even with the most high-end parts you can get, the most quality parts you can buy, you can still get a lot of headaches from, the installation process, or, from a reliability standpoint. It's just, those are concerns I don't have with this car. It's that simple. The 10th and final entry on this list is unique because it's about a feature that didn't come with the car. This is something I had installed after my initial purchase, and that is the paint protection film, or PPF, that I had installed in the entirety of the front end of the vehicle, minus the headlights, and I also had it installed on the mirror caps. And this is an absolute godsend. Some people seem to think that PPF is only for high-end vehicles, that it's not worth it on lower-end vehicles, and I could not disagree more. First of all, if you're, well, I should say, if you don't really care about your front end getting chipped up by, rocks and bugs and everything else, from, either long road trips or winters or whatever else, then yeah, spending, $1,500, $1,800 or whatever on the entirety of a front end of a car might not be worth it to you. But I'd say most people do. I mean, especially if you're watching this channel, you're probably a car enthusiast. You do care about how your car looks. And so I think that is just the best thing you can do for your car from a paint protection standpoint. On that note, I wanted to bring up something else, ceramic coating, which is just the talk of the town. Everyone and their mother wants ceramic coating. Everyone's looking for the cheapest way to get it, but that's a separate issue. But pretty much, people seem to think that ceramic coating is a replacement for PPF, and I couldn't disagree more. Ceramic coating will not protect your front end anywhere near as well from rock chips and bugs. It will give you some protection, especially from UV rays, chemicals, and other weather and whatnot. There's no doubt about that. But PPF is the ultimate way to protect your front end from rock chips and bugs and whatnot. However, there's nothing saying you can't have both. In fact, I do. I have full front end PPF, and I also have ceramic coating on top of that. So just talk about the ultimate protection. Not only do I have the weather, UV, ray, chemical side of protection, and not only is it easier to clean, but I also have the protection the PPF affords me, which is, protecting the paint overall, from rock chips and other debris. Well, there you have it, everyone. This video wasn't long overdue, but it was somewhat overdue, given that it was over 2 months ago when I recorded and uploaded the 10 dislikes video. And I feel like, especially considering the small backlash I got on that video, it was especially important to get this one done. I really want people to know I like this car. I think a sizable amount of people, not a majority by any means, but a good amount, like 15 to 20%, seem to be under the impression, and I'm getting this based off their reaction, primarily in their comments, that I don't like the car. I've been getting feedback like, oh, well, if you don't like this car, if you're gonna nitpick, then why'd you even buy it? It's like, dude, did you not watch the first 30 seconds of the video where I said I like the car? I don't know why people got that impression from me, that I didn't like it, but hopefully this video serves as evidence that I do. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.